Let's record it. All right, wonderful. Okay, that's great. So thank you very much for doing this.
No,
As we said, what's happening is that I'm going to do a webinar in a few weeks with colleagues that it's going to be about the laboratory and communication and explaining exactly how we improve really the situation for you and for us and make life easier, because even today I've done some what I call one-to-ones with some colleagues from the UK, and they're finding that they just don't know really what they're how to really get the best results they can from their SureSmile, and how to also then communicate that with you.
okay.
So I mean, did you see the email with all the questions?
Yes.
See that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
should we start? So I mean, just tell me about what your role involves at SureSmile. What is it you actually do there?
Okay. I am the digital lab manager. I have been working with SureSmile for 20 years. So I've been managing, people inside the digital lab for 15 years, but I've been really managing the digital lab myself for the past 7 years.
Okay.
So my role, 5 years ago, we didn't have the operation in Costa Rica. We have only a team that work here in the United States.
Yes.
That I still have my team complete. We are 30 people here in the USA. So with them, we opened the operation in Costa Rica. They were like the ones that helped me to train the technicians to, develop all the process and do that. So we started in Costa Rica 5 years ago with one tech, and we are about to be 200 technicians there. We are 180 right now there. Yeah. So we planning to hire the other 20 in the next month. So my role is really to manage the digital lab, make sure, that we provide good a product for the internal and external customer, because, my job is also to help my techs to make sure that they have what they need to do their job.
Okay, great. And what qualifications does an experienced technician like yourself have?
Well, I am a dentist, and that's my background. My bachelor is in
you're a dentist,
dentistry.
yeah?
I
Okay.
am, yes. I am a dentist from Colombia, and I have an MBA in operations and project management.
Oh, wow,
That
brilliant.
I finished, like 10 years ago, I finished my MBA. So for a technician, the qualifications we request is that they need to have a 3D software experience. So they need to be able to know how to navigate a 3D software. They need to be bilingual. And they, we don't require a dental background for all the positions. For some positions we do, like the setup QC, positions where they have more direct contact with the customer, then we require the dental background. But for the initial step, that is, checking the data, using the automatic modeling, we just require the 3D experience.
Right. So essentially, my next question you kind of answered. When you process for setting up a new case, what it comes into SureSmile, the technician will check the data's correct, make sure everything's in place. The algorithm will create the setup, and then that goes to quality control to check that's okay.
Yeah. So for our training involved the guidance for the future techs to use the SureSmile software. So we need to develop the clinical eye and the analysis that was what you were mentioning, Dr. Taylor, in your conversation, because they need to analyze the case to be able to do the movements. We have an approach. We use the 6 keys of the occlusion. They understand what is ideal over jet, ideal over bite, what is the cusp inside the fossa. But along these lines, every doctor have their preferences. So we need to set up the clinical eye for the tech to make sure the alignment is right, that they following the macros, they understand different scenarios, if the patient is class 1 or is class 2, division 1, division 2, or is class 3, division 1, division 2, how they will approach the case, what movements they will do on the setup. So we include all this in the training. And, they supervise while they are in training. So we make sure they are, following the protocol. And when they go out to the floor, they still have like their, like the body that is going to work with them and make sure they, checking the case.
Okay. Okay, and so with respect to individual variation of each dentist's requirements in their macros and in their comments, when is that taken into account? Is that at the beginning of the setup, or is everything set up in a particular way and then it's modified afterwards?
Yeah, we set up the cases as based on our protocol, and before we, finish the process, when we are making the notes, we go and check what exactly specifically the doctor requests. So for instance, the doctor said, leave the upper tooth, a little bit higher than the upper centrals.
Then you'll make
That will be changed on that step, because it's faster for them to follow the process and then just
Yep.
modify whatever the doctor requests.
Okay, so when we send our instructions, we need to be aware that the setup's done and then it's changes to that. Okay, and so the issue that I've found from other clinicians and talking is that sometimes they feel that maybe those instructions aren't always met. And I guess that's very subjective as well, is that my expectation of make a tooth shorter is different without specifics. So, I mean, what would explain that from your end, just so we understand and we can kind of, because where I'd like to get to with this is to be able to say to the clinicians in the UK that I'm working with, is that, okay, this is what the lab really needs from us in terms of, do we write it in a discussion in the special instruction at the bottom, or do you want it in every section, or do you want points?
No.
Okay.
So the doctor prescription is extremely important because it's the guide that we have to create the setup. So not all the doctors are looking for the same result. We understand that. Sometimes we have cases that we would like to do more, but the doctor said, no, I'm just move 5 to 5, leave the posterior crossbite alone, don't adjust this. So we can follow that. Sometimes we have, scenarios where the doctor wants full correction, class, midline, crossbite, Bolton discrepancies. So for us, it's very important that under the special instructions, as clear as possible, the doctor writes down what is the goal of the treatment. Because for instance, we have notes that said achieve class 1. But the doctor didn't say how. Do you want segmental distalization? Do you want class 2s? Do you want to do IPR? Do you want to leave a space distal of the upper tooth to help with the Bolton and help with the class? How you wanted to do that?
Okay, so there needs to be an understanding from the dentist to you exactly what they want. And this is what we've been talking about, is it's very easy for us to give you a case and say, make it straight. But
correct,
unless you know what the dentist wants to achieve, because looking at the facial structures, the lips, the patient, how many aligners they're willing to wear, you can't just presume that for every case. So we need to give as much. So you really want as much detail as we can in that special instruction box at the bottom to really explain to you exactly what it is we're trying to achieve. And so the objective is key. You want to know what our end goal is. Is that correct?
Correct. And also the concern of the patient will help us as well, because the patient very often mentions something that he or she doesn't like. So we have notes from doctors that said, okay, the main complaint of this patient is the position of the upper right tooth. So if we have these, these notes, the team can focus on do the ideal setup, but also to double check these areas where the doctor and the patient are expecting a better result.
Lovely. So you can, in your macros, in your settings, you can add a preset instruction on these instructions. So we should all add patient's complaint, objectives, etc., etc. And so that's fine. So from now on, we can tell everybody that that's really what they should be doing, so that you can see exactly towards the end of the treatment, as you're setting it up, what the main concerns are and what the main outcome goals are as well.
That's great. And also, if we have yesterday a doctor that in the macros form, he said no elastic simulated. He put it on the class that he said no elastic simulation. So we understood he didn't want any global correction. But on the special instruction, he says, I want to achieve full class 1.
You can't do it.
Okay, exactly. So we sent the case back and we told him, okay, so if you don't want to wear elastics, what do you want us to do? Because the patient was class 3. So we couldn't retract the upper. So these are the things that, as you know, it will be ideally we have the notes so we don't have to guess.
No, that's
What is
perfect.
what the doctor wants?
The magic wand, yes? Abracadabra, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, I mean, that's that initially. I mean, a lot of my questions are kind of being answered as we're talking. You know, what issues or concerns do you have with the prescriptions and instructions from dentists? You just want us to be coherent and make sure the same applies
Yeah.
throughout, so we understand. So the knowledge, do you find the knowledge of dentists of orthodontics is an issue for you? In that, do you have many dentists sending prescriptions that aren't quite familiar with all the mechanics, let's say?
Yes, I will say that the dentist, sometimes they don't have the ideal case selection. So if
Okay.
you're a dentist and you're starting, to do SureSmile or the aligner product, you should start for easy cases. Don't grab the most difficult ones to begin, because you're gonna get frustrated. You need to troubleshoot. Some of these cases that are hard, severe crowding, crossbites, may need a refinement.
Yes.
So the patient gets frustrated, the doctor gets frustrated. So if they can select easier cases, minor, moderate crowding to start, that will be great. I think some of the confusion that we have very common with the notes and from doctor from Europe is the nomenclature they use for the cases. They select one in the macros form,
Yes.
but when they typing in the notes, they seem to be using a different one.
Okay.
So that also will help us if we understand if they're talking about the 7 as the upper right tooth, or the 7 as the second molar. Yeah.
Okay. So Natasha, hi, how are you?
Right,
Hi, Natasha. How are you?
it's a busy Friday, but not as busy as James, admittedly.
Yeah, just to give you a quick summary where we've got to, we've just had a quick chat. We understand now that when the information goes to SureSmile, the algorithm completes the case, and then they look at the special instructions at the end and then make the detailed change that the dentist wants. But what they're also finding is that the knowledge of the dentist prescribing doesn't always fit in with what they're asking for. So this is where the training in terms of mechanics and how to get from A to B and how to achieve a class 1 from a class 3 may need elastics, but there's contrary information on the same form. Ideally, we should be putting at the end in the special instructions, the patient's concern, objectives, and how we want to achieve that. And so there is, and a lot of cases are coming where dentists are just doing stuff that's too hard without the experience.
Just on a high level query, from both perspectives, James, obviously given the last 8 weeks that you've had helping us and having to kind of look at many different issues from different angles, but a lot are occurring, we know, from the same source that we're identifying. From both perspectives, if there was, because our training at the moment, how it's delivered, is delivered through a channel that also delivers to other aligner systems. So I don't feel it's as SureSmile specific as it should and could be. I feel like it's very one-dimensional, for want of a better term. If we could create a SureSmile training program that was delivered in a format that was SureSmile specific, including lab communication, would that negate a lot of the issues from both sides, if that makes sense? So if
it will be.
Yeah,
I think if we train, as what I was we were talking before, we need to teach the doctors that they need to let us know what is the main concern, what they want to fix with the case. Because, for instance, very often we have prescriptions where it seems that the doctor really check the initial position of the patient because the patient has severe crowding, and the doctor is putting in the prescription that no IPR is allowed, no extraction, and the patient has the aids in the mouth. So,
yeah,
it's no way to fix this.
I get that we have 2 types of clinicians to some respect, those that have used other systems and those that have no experience. And I feel we are providing them a generalized aligner training that isn't that specific. So, for example, I feel like we're speaking a generalized language in our communication, and what we should be speaking is SureSmile. And I feel like that starts with the training. So if we had SureSmile specific training delivered by a SureSmile clinician that understood the system inside and out, I feel like a lot of issues wouldn't occur personally.
You've also got I mean, there's a number of levels to this. You have that actually it would be easy to teach people to use SureSmile specifically, and then you can show them what the capabilities are and how they navigate that, because a lot of them are coming from other aligner systems and they're saying it doesn't do as much or it doesn't do this, and they're just lost. And then on the flip side, you have people doing this generic training and they're being told certain aspects which really it limits what they can achieve by using that, but then they're not getting the instruction on case selection correctly. So there are so many cases there that they may have in their clinics, and they're applying those very fine parameters to
very limited.
and they're applying those to cases which you need to do more comprehensive care, which isn't complicated. But what you could do then is you could tie in a course which is SureSmile specific, which has the mechanics needed and how to achieve that with SureSmile in a forum that's safe and can be controlled, basically. So there's
and I think there's parts of delivering aligner treatment, and I mean I'm talking SureSmile, that need to be, I feel like the training needs to be more comprehensive, in the sense, especially the new to aligner training, in the sense of you've got that initial training, obviously that kind of onboarding training, but then you've got very specific areas such as IPR, refinements, etc. I've spoke to several clinicians over the last week off the back of something you said, James, about how you're an ortho user, and obviously you teach on aligner, so you've been looking a lot at the aligner system through these one-to-ones, and you said to me, oh, actually I've realized there's a lot achievable within the aligner system that I didn't know about, that I can actually do a lot within it that I was used to be ortho specific, and it was ortho specific, specifically in refinements and communication with the lab. And I've realised, going back and speaking to some colleagues and other clinicians, that they're not aware of what the systems do. Those that have been kind of 2022, 2021 are still, and I don't know, Carol, from a lab perspective, if you're finding this, they're still heavily reliant on that refinement modification box. They just put free text in there. They're not using the freehand boxes. They're not using the numerical boxes, because they either don't know it's there, or they don't know how to use it, because we're necessarily addressing the training of the update, and I don't think it was delivered well, probably from the CSI, from our perspective, that the clinicians don't know it's there. So I just feel like the training could be a lot more open-minded, yet more specific, which I know is completely...
No, it's true though. It is. It's just saying what this can achieve and how you do it. So, and today I've done what, six one-to-ones today, and I think 4 of the clinicians, all the cases were too complicated for them. They shouldn't have been touching them. You know, class 2 division 2s of the crossbite on someone that's on the second aligner case. I mean, you know,
I think there's this misinterpretation that if you scan and photograph and send it to SureSmile, and SureSmile send back a plan, that so it can be done, that yes, it can be done, but whether that clinician should be doing it are 2 very different things for me. Without the, and I feel like that one-day training, that kind of 10:30 to 3:30, is just the fundamentals. It's just very basic, and it is very aligner wide. It's not SureSmile specific, and there needs to be a lot more. There needs to be very case specific modules, but specific to SureSmile, from somebody that is using SureSmile and knows the capabilities.
So Natasha, I went to Verona, sorry Carol, this is separate.
No, that's fine.
I did the Verona course. I did the Verona course for 2 days. So I did 8 or 9 lectures, and then we did some cases. We did the demo cases. That's exactly what you need here. It was a 2-day intensive. It was 8 until 7, dinner 8 till 7 or something, and we literally worked through cases. And I did IPR, we did limits, difficulties, class 2 division 1, elastic use, I literally built a whole course, which I had, you know, and that gave them all that grounding, and then off they went. But and it was SureSmile specific though.
Sorry, Carol, I won't hijack
no problem.
I think we need to get on a call with James, and not you, James, internal James, you, James, internal James, Christian and Gio, to look how that course was delivered, as opposed to how we're, I know it's under review at the moment anyway, but as to how it's, and it's, when I say at the moment, I mean literally at the moment, and over the next couple of weeks, but I felt this for a little while, and James's kind of clinical expertise, seeing the reality of what's coming across and how it's being addressed by the current clinicians, is just confirmed what I already feared. So I think there needs to be
what I'll do is I'll send you that course detail, that course breakdown that I got, and what they asked me to do and what I did. I'll send you that, then you can see how I broke.
And then we'll get, I'll look at timings and hopefully just get like even just a 30-minute course so we can discuss how it was delivered with the clinical education side, because I feel like if we are training the clinicians correctly at the beginning in regards to effective lab communication, how they should be, not just the ortho side, but the actual SureSmile element, then a lot of the issues that occur just wouldn't occur.
And what I found today was 2 people with IAS level 1, they get 3 mentored cases free.
Yeah.
They're asking me about the case, where they should start it before they go on to the mentoring with them.
I think part of the problem from the mentored cases is, well, there's several issues that I've had clinicians come back and say that they're very long. They upload a case onto a portal, which then can be picked up by one of several clinicians on the first instance, and then there'll be actions that are sent through, and then another clinician could pick up with a different mindset, and then so on. So continuity and consistency is becoming an issue, but also the longevity. Some of those cases can be 12 weeks before even getting started.
Okay, so we know the issues now. We know where we are with this. Carol, is there anything else you can tell us, or is that about it? I think we had a good summary there. I think we know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, some of your questions was also that how much of the processes of the setup process is automated and how much is done manually. Well, with the setup process, we have very minimum automation. Pretty much everything is done using the software, but it's when the technician expertise comes to hand and the clinical QC are supporting the setup tech. We do have a project that we're working with the developers that is going to give us, the AI that we need to speed up the process, because we need help aligning and something that the computer could help us to do. However, because it's still a process that is done by a human, it has the good and the bad, and I would say that is more the good, because the techs still have to check how the movements are done. And I think one of the advantages that SureSmile has in regards of the 3D model is that we are pretty much the only company that is using the STL data, but creating a 3D model that has a part of the route. So the technician can see really in which direction the route is going and can compensate the movements. If the doctor doesn't have a CBCT machine, still the orientation of the route is accurate with the SureSmile software. So I think this is also something that is important for the doctors to understand, and they need to learn how to check the reference model against the malocclusion. So how we do the setup and how they need to learn how to toggle, because sometimes they don't toggle and they send us the case back and we're just like, compare the initial malocclusion to the setup and you will see the difference on the movement.
So what I find with that, and I had a couple of cases that I've seen from and I used to have this problem, but I do have concern with some of the movements, some bodily movements of expansion, and that's why I'll only use a CBCT.
Yeah.
But they're still coming through, and labial proclination, movement of the labial segments, the bone isn't there, and you're gonna and I saw a case. I mean, I can show you. There was a case. I could share my screen. Let me see if I can. Let me have a look here. For example, I mean, can I share my screen with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where are we? Screen share. Here we go. You see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is, I mean, these are clinicians that have done one case. This was before. This is and this is afterwards. And if that's not a good example, because let me see here. I took
Yeah,
the
we need
video.
to, yeah, we will have to put the blue teeth on top and flip the model, Dr. Taylor, to see, because the movement may appear.
This one here and this here, this was
Mhm.
like this was intrusion, and it was and I did a video. I've got some video somewhere, screen recording here. Let's see what this one is. Okay. So this was someone else's case I looked at, and let me remind myself what it's showing here. Okay, so it was literally three. They asked for, so they've never done a case before. It's their first case, and they were told by the people training that they should do only 2 millimeters minimal IPR, and no, and they didn't. They were worried about expanding the buccal segment, so they didn't, and so they purely just did 3-3 alignment, but and same for the lower as well. I don't have to get rid of the you can't really see this, but it just
Yeah, we need to see the blue teeth, because sometimes the movement appears to be a lot in the crown, Dr. Taylor, but when you flip the model and you compare the blue and the white teeth, the roots are maintained. And this is what we're trying to check, that we're not moving the whole tooth, you know, first.
That's fine, but look at the labial. It was the labial proclination, because they can't move because they requested no distal movement from the fore backwards.
Yeah.
Look how proclined the final outcome is there.
Yeah.
Look how far forwards, and they knew no different. They're like, oh, that looks okay. And then we talked it through, and there was no IPR on the labial segment at all. And it's hard.
So this is one of these examples that if the patient is ever crowding, the doctor has to allow us to do it. Yeah.
Look at this. You see this?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just going to cause so much recession, and because they didn't want any movement of the posterior. So yes, they need to allow you to do it. But more of a concern for me is that they weren't. I don't know what comments. I mean, I actually haven't seen. But if that was highlighted to them, that actually you need to make this a more comprehensive treatment.
Yeah,
there should have been some expansion, more IPR distally, more IPR interproximally as well between the centrals to remove the black triangle. So they were going to have a proclined labial segment, and also no IPR as well, so black triangle. So aesthetically it would have been awful. So that was a case that I was like, okay, I want to record this.
James, I'm so sorry, I've got to jump off, guys. I've actually got a meeting
no
now
problem.
about
No problem, Natasha.
That's fine. I think what we've identified is that there's work to do, and that's great.
Yeah, I'm if you can send me that course information, James. I've now got a James Taylor meeting, so I've got to just bob in because everyone wants the figures updated, and there's lots of excitement over Monday's figures and things. So I just need to jump into that. So if your ears are burning,
I'll send you now. I'll send it shortly. Okay.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, Carol. Thank you. Bye, Carol. Let's stop it there. I've got everything I need, and I'll be in touch. But thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, Dr. Taylor.
It's a good understanding. All the best.
Okay.
Look after yourself.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.